Hello world, this is Zafar Abundance Wala and you're watching Abundance Show. If you're interested in taking a giant step in beauty industry, so here we have fun. Fun, who are you?
Hi, Zafar. Nice to meet you. Well, nice to see you again. Yeah. Who am I? My name is Fun. I'm the founder of MF Communications. I'm Malaysian, but actually, I'm originally Malaysian, but I'm based here in New York.
Oh wow, thank you so much. Would you like to give us a short story of your life journey?
Yeah, basically, I founded a New York-based consultancy firm, specializing in beauty, retail, and like a global market expansion. Yeah, like I said, originally I'm from Malaysia, so I have almost 2 decades of experience leading commercial growth, brand development, retail operations across the Asia Pacific region. Yeah, so throughout my career, I've lived in Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and now the United States. So I have a deep understanding of both regional and global markets. So I spent 8 years in leadership roles in L'Oreal, which is one of the world's leading beauty companies. It's where I drove beauty and marketing, retail strategies, and sales strategies for globally recognized brands like Kiehl's and Urban Decay. After being in L'Oreal for 8 years, then I joined Polar Orbis Holdings, which is one of Japan's largest beauty companies. And in Polar Orbis Holdings, I was travel retail director, where I established the company's travel retail subsidiary in Hong Kong. And then I also led the expansion of the regional business across Asia. And I also built high performing teams and also developed strategic partnerships all around, the region to accelerate growth. Yeah, then in 2026, I founded MF Communications, still very new company in New York. And basically, the objective is to help beauty and retail brands unlock their new growth opportunities. Basically, my firm advises business on market expansion, go to market strategies, brand management, retail development, supply chain, and logistics. And basically, it's drawing on my expertise and experience of almost 20 years being in retail and beauty management.
Oh, wow, what an experience! I mean, two decades of your work, and then work in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, in leading brands of China, and now in MF Communication in New York. You've got the global experience, and it's what I'm missing. Like United States, back to Singapore, back to Hong Kong, Malaysia, and now, okay, you've been working for L'Oreal. How was the experience? Your experience with the L'Oreal Group?
Yeah, so wow, being in the L'Oreal Group, it is an immense privilege being in the biggest beauty company in the world. So being there for 8 years, it has taught me so much about business, retail, beauty, um, management, team leadership, working across all the different functions. I was mainly in sales. I was mainly in marketing and sales. But basically, it has really given me so much extensive experience on knowing how a retail brand operates globally. So the experience being in the Laura Group, being there for 8 years, and being in I started my Laura career in Singapore, and I was doing marketing. I was there for about close to 4 years. And then I was transferred over to Hong Kong to join the travel retail subsidiary. So that's where I was handling more regional scope from Southeast Asia. And then after that, I was leading the Greater China region as well. Yeah, so it's been immense experience, and it's what they tell you about L'Oreal is true. It is tough. It is tough, but also because they demand the very best. So there's no doubt that L'Oreal is one of the best schools out there for retail. Yeah, it is tough, but you just need to, live through it, and keep curious. Yeah, and learn as much as you can because there's so much to learn from L'Oreal.
And you've been working with Japan's largest beauty companies, Pola
What?
Orbis Holdings.
Yeah,
How
it's
was
one of the
as
largest.
as a
Yeah,
director? I mean, such a high position there. How was the experience? What did you like?
yeah.
What did you love most about it?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, Polar Orbis Holdings, it is one of the oldest, Japanese beauty companies. It is a fourth largest beauty company in Japan. Um, Working there I was there for 6 years. And working there was an amazing experience as well because they poured in a lot of passion and technology into their products. So I've never been, so to me, I feel that what I learned from being in Pola is that holding your customers' interest is the ultimate, a goal for the company. Making sure that they make the best products for the customers, and making sure that the customers are happy with their purchases. That was the most important thing, for the company. But it also builds loyalty, because when you make a great product that people love so much and truly believe in, they become loyal customers. So yeah, and basically being in Polar Orbis Holdings as well, it was very, very structured. I was part of the board meeting every month, and basically the board meetings were so structured. There's always an agenda sent out, 3 days before, and what needs to be approved, will be discussed during the meetings, and it was just very, very structured, which is what I appreciate and what I learned, being in a Japanese company.
Oh wow! And what strategies did you develop there to accelerate the growth that or Laurel is one of the best brands in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so different because different companies, it would depend on what the business objectives are. What is the overall global objectives of the group, and then that will translate down to the regions. Then it translate down, to someone like me, who I my job was to, of course, execute those visions and to basically come up with like a business strategies to realize those company and group visions. So the strategies were, like, for me, if I talk about it, from a sales, like a point of view, from a commercial point of view, is really about finding out market opportunities where we can still expand to. Like when I was at Kiehl's was very careful in terms of their expansion. They do not want to expand too fast, okay? Because it would be just over diluting, like overstretching yourself. So we were very careful with our expansion strategies, especially like in China. So it's really about understanding, knowing the retailers and knowing where are the upcoming airport openings are, and then making careful evaluations on what are the growth opportunities, what is the potential, of business opportunities there, before we decide, to expand. Yeah, so that's an example, when I was in L'Oreal.
Oh, that's amazing story. And Laurel is such a beautiful of the memories you have. Okay, thank you so much. Now, the real stuff is my first question is, I mean,
Yes.
that was just starters and the warm up questions. The real question is, what was your motivation to form your own consultancy and also that in United States?
Yeah, so basically, so I was in corporate, for almost 20 years, and I started to, have a feeling that I want to start my own thing because I was thinking about the next phase, of my life. I was trying to imagine what what am I going to be doing in the next 20 years, of my life. So I imagined, 20 years later, I'll be like 60 plus, I'll probably be doing my own thing. So that's why I had this feeling, I had this desire to start my own thing, because I want to start building up, the skills, like now, yeah, so that I can prepare, myself, for the next 20 years down the road. So I also viewed it as the next chapter of my life, so I spent the last 20 years in corporate building up my skills, my expertise, my experience, and now I feel that I'm in my next chapter of my life. So yeah, that's why I'm starting my own thing.
Okay, since we are a member of Inner Mountain community, I always ask a question that leaving a job and starting your own thing, being your own boss,
Yeah.
is is a mountain to climb and conquer. What made you was the real motivation that leave your like 9 to 5, the paycheck, the job security, and there are the hell of challenges when you be your own boss and when you're running your own organization. And what are the challenges that you're facing while making this decision that you started, and how are you overcoming, and how did you overcome so far? Back to you.
Yeah, so definitely, when I decided to start, when I left, my corporate job, I did not realize, how much I felt, how much my identity was tied to my corporate past. Because for me, being in corporate for 20 years, I have done a lot, I've I have a lot of success stories, and I felt really satisfied, with my achievements. When I started my own, when I quit, my corporate job, I did not realize, how much my identity, like I said, my identity was caught, what was tied up to my corporate past. So I think that part was a surprise, to me. So when I left it, I had to rewire, my thoughts, and try to be comfortable, that I'm leaving that past behind and starting a new thing. But yeah, there were so many challenges, so I just started my consultancy in February this year. So there's definitely a lot of, challenges. Um, so I to be honest, I started questioning myself, so many times when I left my corporate job. I started questioning my worth, my values, after leaving corporate. And then because I tied so much of my success to my, corporate achievements. Then it was also a adjustment, because I don't have any more stability and structure, in my life. It was an opportunity. Suddenly I felt like all alone, because, but although I should be celebrating the fact that I have the freedom now and time, right? But I also did not expect how lonely, it was going to be. Yeah, so that was also a surprise. So that's why I wanted to find communities, so that I could share these concerns with, and that's how I came across Inner Mountain. After watching Diane, after watching Diane Wang's video, her video interview. So that's why I joined the Inner Mountain community, because her experience also resonated with me, because she was in corporate for so many years, so successful, and then she decided to start her own thing. So yeah, so I was trying to also find inspirations, from women, other women who have done the same thing, and managed to successfully conquer that mountain. So that's why, yeah. And then I also found, speaking to friends, and my ex-work colleagues, to be very helpful, because I was surprised and relieved that to know that I wasn't the only one, feeling like this. And then it really helped me a lot, speaking to more people and sharing, my concerns. So right now, it's been almost like half a year. Right now, I'm much more comfortable. and more inspired, to truly find my purpose, and enjoy this new chapter of my life. So, but I'm still very keen, to work with businesses and companies, because I have a lot of experience, in this field, and a strong network of people as well, so yeah, right now, I'm very excited and very very much more inspired, to truly help, and build, my consulting business.
Wow, it is, heartful reply. I really enjoy your mindset, your heart set, your health set, and your soul set. It's all in one. This question, that's amazing. My next question is: having been in retail for 20 years, how is the beauty and retail market revolving, and what do you see as the future of retail and beauty?
Yeah, so very good question. Because there's definitely has been a lot of changes in terms of consumption behavior, shopping touch points, and also generational fragmentation. So let me talk about these 3 points. So first one is consumer behavior. Okay, so customers nowadays they want more authenticity. Okay, definitely they want brands who are very authentic. They want brands, who are basically are able to resonate, with their values. But they also appreciate brands with like history, legacy, and also of course, a budget also comes in, into a very strong play. So customers nowadays, they're shopping with a lot more intention, and they're a lot more discerning. So, for example, there are customers who prefer to shop, for beauty brands that align, with their values of being eco-conscious, without any harsh chemicals, that are sustainable, and they want brands, that are authentic, and genuine. So they don't like brands, that are just greenwashing, the things, that they try to say. So customers are definitely more careful with how they choose, to spend their money. And the economy is also very uncertain, these days. So they definitely want to ensure that they invest their dollar into something that they truly believe in. So the next thing is, shopping touch points. So shopping touch points have definitely become much more online. Okay, so why I say this is because I feel that COVID, COVID-19, that when 2020 came, COVID was a catalyst that forced everyone, to start shopping online much more prominently. It basically COVID helped to push the online shopping experience. So like in Asia, all the retailers during COVID suddenly they were forced to adapt to online shopping because the customers were not allowed to leave their houses, so they cannot go to the shops, right? So overnight, literally overnight, the retailers were forced to adopt online shopping very very quickly, and it has stayed, so people they still love the shopping, like a physical in-person shopping experience, but the convenience of online shopping, is definitely very permanent. Okay, and more, you see customers, making the purchases, online. They will do a lot of research. Okay, first because we're talking about this earlier. We're all glued to our screens. Because that's where we find a lot of information. So customers they definitely do a lot of their research. Online first, they look for peer reviews. Before they decide to, then they would also, if there's a chance, they would also want to see the product. In person. Before they make the purchases. But they will still, rather make the purchases online because there's a convenience factor. Okay, and brands, and retailers have made it so accessible and easy for customers to shop online. So but I think brands are also finding ways to engage with the customers through in-person experiences. So, like, because shopping is no longer just about buying; it is about living the brand, and what the brand means to you and what it represents. Like when you're using, the brand. So, like, if you are associated, like, if you use a certain brand, like, what does it say about you? Like, for example, if let's say you're really into sports, like, then if you use a certain brand, then what does it say about you? Like, the part of you buying a brand is also making sure that it represents who you are, right? So, and then thrifting. Interestingly, thrifting has also become very, very big these days because people are much more conscious about overconsumption, and they're being careful. And you want to be very careful that they don't consume like too much, because like, basically they don't want to end up, like, having to buy too many things and those things ending up in landfill. So that goes to part of like a more sustainable, more eco-conscious, like a mentality. And then another interesting, like, another evolution that I see is the generational consumers. Like, also very interesting because we have so many more generations of shoppers now. Like, to target. There is the core segment of 25 to 40 years old, like, which has always been a core segment. But now there's also the silver economy, and there's also the Gen Z customers who have completely different expectations on, like, what they want or what they're looking for. So definitely shopping beauty has evolved so much in terms of, like, these three core, like, touch points, I feel. So yeah, so, like, as a brand, like, as a brand, you have so much more opportunities, like, to narrow down, like, what you're targeting, who you're targeting, like, and you can really, like, basically develop a niche, like, in what you're trying to sell. So yeah, I feel that shopping has become so much more interesting compared to before. It's not one size fits all. It's which size, like, fits you.
My goodness, in this reply so deep, you started from consumption behavior, then you talk about authenticity of the brand, value of the brand, and the customers are eco-conscious also, and they want to purchase from where their heart resonates with. They also they are also conscious of budget, and even the investors want to invest in the brands which resonate with their own value. And then you touch the shopping touch points and then you told us about the COVID, and it changed the consumption behavior and everything going online, and the online shopping experience. Then you talk that brands not only want to sell, but they want to engage with their customers. And as you were telling earlier, that L'Oreal group was amazing, and they were looking not only for the satisfaction of the customer, but happiness of the customer. So then another concept that you told is living the brand. That's amazing. And then you touch the generational consumers like 20 to 40 and now Gen Z. And I mean they are changing expectations. And then again you talk about the targets, who what is the target and who are the target. My goodness, fun. It needs a PhD to to understand even these terminologies. Thank you so much. I mean, even I like to have a podcast on all these points, just because this is a ocean of knowledge. That's Thank you so much for giving us the pearl of wisdom that you have chosen from one market to another globally. My next question is how do we future proof retail and supply chain with all the disruptions that we have experienced in the last few years?
Yeah, yeah, good question. I mean, like, yeah, so definitely the last few years were unprecedented. Like, I always share this, like, with whenever I'm talking to peers, like, or people from the industry, like, So as like marketing person, like, or like a business strategy or business strategist, we always looked at, like trends and patterns, like from the past, to forecast, like how we want to build our business strategies, moving forward, right? So we always learn from the past, so, but then after COVID happened, every year there has been, some new situation, new global situation that no one expected, no one experienced before, especially in our generation, and nobody knows what to do, and now, it's very common to say that, to tell that for brands, companies to say that, I can't plan for 2 years down the road because I don't know what's going to happen. 2 years down the road, I can we can plan for like the next 6 months. And then let's see. Hopefully nothing. Nothing changes again. So it's become very very definitely very unpredictable. But for me personally, after experiencing these situations, for the past 4 to 5 years, I think what we can adopt is agility. Okay, like we have to learn to be agile, right? So if something doesn't work, like we need to know how to pivot, and be ready, to pivot to something else, right? So that's why, I think what shocked everyone is basically the there was no plan B, when things happened, there was no plan B, and then everyone had to wait for things to normalize, but that took a long time, like a couple of months, a year, 2 years, before things started, normalizing, or basically normalizing the dysfunction, So but I think, like I said, it has taught us to be more agile, okay, and companies need to be more agile and have agility, not just from supply chain, but in terms of like, the business strategies, the marketing strategies as well, how do we future proof is that, well, for example, in terms of supply chain, brands would think about, how do we source things, that are closer, to us, so that, and also, they diversified, their resources, they don't just depend on like perhaps, one supply chain, like one supply provider, they have to diversify, yeah, the providers, and then, but that's supply chain, that's a very probably one of the core, the foundation. But then, however, this agility, I feel that it should also translate to every single function, above the supply chain as well, because supply chain is one thing, but then, a sales team still needs to make the numbers, marketing team, still needs to, push something to sell, right? So then agility also translates to every single layer, a beyond the supply chain, because like the marketing teams, yes, they if let's say product A is not available, they need to find ways, and they need to find, ways to market product B, because companies still need to make money, they still need to, have business, so they need to learn how to pivot, to something else, that would still be able to deliver, their business objectives. So yeah, and then, then it also translates to customer expectations and also retailer expectations, because if let's say you really have something that, that you really needed to market or launch or sell, you need to manage, the expectations from every single level, and you need to be agile, to be able to translate all these, into every single level as well. So but yeah, but I think in terms of like supply chain, the fundamental things will need to be of course, taken care of and studied, think about, the supply chain, the routes, the timelines, the journeys, the costs and things like that. So supply chain is very technical, but it also, like, it definitely translates to every single layer, beyond supply chain as well. And that's where, in such a big company, that's where all the different departments, they need to communicate properly, like with each other. Yeah. So it's very common, like to see, like in a big company, basically all the different departments, they're not talking to each other, and in the end, like that's where, like some mess happens, like because there's mismanagement, like of expectations and or lack of communication between, like these departments. So yeah, so I think, like how do we future proof retail? I think we need to be agile, because you you can't really plan that far ahead, like you can, but then there's always a risk, so be staying agile and embracing, like that disruptions is going to be part of the norm already.
Oh wow, oh wow. You know, that's where I love it most. You talk about started from disruption. I love the word. The disruption is fantastic. I mean, it's the only thing that you can get this abundance. Abundance can only be achieved through disruption. That the world most disruptive person is Elon Musk for himself. And I can you talk about the business strategies, and then you talk of that you can plan for at the max 2 years, just because the world is changing fast. And then that you form your strategies looking at the past trends. Then you for the future, then you project the future. And then you were talking a lot about the agility. That is logistics, and making no mistakes you can't afford. Okay, and I love to, since this is my area, this is my subject. So uh, earlier, the organization that do exist right now are the linear ones. And the linear this with in like I would say, in next 5 years, or maybe at max 7 years, you these are bound to fail. These organizations, the linear organizations, they are bound to fail. And just because there are lots of disruption gonna go, as you said in your last response, that we don't know what Gen Z is thinking about, what they want, what's their satisfaction points. And every next move is their own move. We can't translate, we can't understand. So now there are two things. One is linear organization that we already have, and what you are talking about disruption, those are exponential organization that, like, they're going right like 90-degree. And that are only possible if they have if the employee and the organization do have one MTP, massive transformative purpose.
Mm,
Only then, if the employee and the employer and the organization do have, they are looking in the one direction, one target. And the targets, like I was talking to Debbie, she said you must not plan beyond 18 months. Like, I mean, this is 1.5 year, and you were telling the 2 years. I mean, you are very close. You both of your mindset is very close. I think you must talk to her oftenly, just because you think alike. And then you what you were suggesting, the solution was logistics. That is truly true. And the solution for authenticity, the solution that you gave about the agility, that's really really true. Agility. Now, what is massive transformative purpose? It's like I want to unleash abundance of health, wealth, and happiness for 8 billion people. I'm manifesting it every day. And this global abundance organization is part of unleashing abundance. Abundance is only possible through disruption. How you can disrupt through technology. AI is disrupting organizations. The small four kids, they are selling their cursor.ai for $60 billion. They are just in their 20s. They are, none of them is 30s. So look at them. So this is disruption, and abundance is the target. So abundance is possible, and that is possible through technology. Since AI is already there, so these are solution. I mean, I wanted to give my little bit of the feedback into this. Now, back to you, and my next question to you is: what are your thoughts on women in leadership positions, and what advice do you have for our listeners today? Back to you,
Yeah.
Fun.
Yes. So I think it's extremely important for women in leadership positions because I like personally, I ever since like I was young, like in my 20s, I imagined myself, being able to contribute my thoughts and my ideas and my skills, in a bigger organization. Okay, like I did not know which organization I was going to end up in. Okay, but I just had this vision, of myself being in a relatively, a senior position and being able to, lead a team and also achieve, success in my work. So that was the vision, like I had for myself, and of course, it's not an easy journey. Okay, because when you're younger, you just started working, you will definitely make mistakes, you definitely make mistakes, but the most important thing is being able to recognize those mistakes, and learning, what you can and knowing, understanding what you can learn from it, and how do you keep improving yourself. Because when you work in like a corporate, position, when you work in a company, you're always trying to sharpen, your skills, a year after year, in terms of like everything, in terms of like business analysis, in terms of like marketing strategies, in terms of how you work with your colleagues, how you work with your bosses. Okay, and then how you manage, a team. So it's, I think it's very important, to take that time to hone, your skills, as you progress in your career. Women in leadership positions, extremely important, because I think the biggest satisfaction that I got being, in a more senior, like a position when I was working, is the sense of independence, is the sense of empowerment, that I have, for myself. So I think that is extremely important, for women to be in leadership positions, because you are basically, showing yourself, and setting examples, for other women, that you can achieve, uh, uh, you can achieve success, in your career. And it would really depends, ultimately it really depends on what you want, you can go ahead and progress to, a C-suite level, to be as high as possible. But but to me, it's the most satisfying, or the most important achievement for me was being in a leadership position that gave me a sense of independence. Yeah. So because when I achieved that feeling, it really gave me a lot more freedom, and it gave me a lot more like bravery, to do something else, after this. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for younger women, I I would say that, for younger women, do not afraid to challenge yourself. Okay. Hardship is, of course, is hard, like emotionally, mentally, hardship is hard. Okay, but it also helps to shape you, and it helps to make you more resilient. Okay, so I feel that younger people nowadays, they are afraid, they are very afraid of like challenges, because they don't want to be, basically they don't like that feeling of being stressed. I think,
mm,
you know, like but it's but you also need to understand that a little bit of stress, a little bit of pressure, it pushes you, you know, like to challenge yourself and do a little bit better, you know, like. But of course, you know, like you need to be able to recognize when too much stress is dangerous for your health. Okay, yeah, but a little bit of pressure, it, you know, like it just gives you a little bit more drive, you know, like to do a little bit better. Yeah. So for younger women, you know, who aspire to be in leadership positions, you need to challenge yourself, you know, like a little bit. Do not be too afraid of hardship. Okay. And you can put a little bit of pressure, you know, on yourself, because that is something that, you know, like it is what drives you, you know, like ahead. And but yeah, but talk and share, you know, like with other women, you know, like um I think, you know, it's really important as well, you know, like for younger women who has these desires to be in leadership positions, to talk to, you know, like other people, men, women who are more experienced, you know, like because yeah, because older people, you know, like they have a lot more, they have a lot of wisdom, you know, like to share, because they've lived it before. You know, like we all started out somewhere. I mean, like Zafar, you and I, we were younger, we were young ones, right?
we are still
So
young. I'm young. I mean, come on. I'm still young. I mean,
yeah,
I
so
and the fantastic thing about the mm, your advice to the young ones, and especially the women, that one thing is fantastic: the independence. There is no
mm,
substitute of independence, and the freedom has a cost, and that's a little bit. I mean, going having a big heart. You know, in the derby race, there are horses. They are running and having the loops, and you know, the horse who wins the derby race, it does not have like one loop extra or one or two left. It's just at times the nose is like, I mean, there's laser gun here, and one is like with the nose. It's and it's burning its muscles as others are, but you know, it's go little extra, little extra. Is it give it? Okay, man, I'll rest after doing this. Okay, just relax, courage. And again, one more thing that you talked about, I love for the discussion is disruption again, and I mean making mistakes. You know, make mistakes until and unless you, as I was, this is my field, that MTP, the ikigai. Ikigai we can't be known. MTP we can't find MTP until and unless we experience. You know, the other name to mistakes is experience. You learn, you succeed or you learn. This learning is experience, even if you're succeeding experience. And as you said, you've been in senior positions, and what most you enjoyed is sense of empowerment. That's amazing. When you're executing your own, setting your own targets, then you're finding your own ways. And if you're a disruptor, nothing like that. If you're a technologist, nothing like that. So abundance, you know, abundance is the target. Be it L'Oreal, be it any beauty brand, be it any Cursor.ai, any tech world, or even if you've got government brand or whatever brands do you have, you want abundance, abundance of everything. So that's only possible through technology and collaboration, cooperation, and coexistence. Thank you so much for it. Fun. It was real fun talking to you. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I don't want to finish it, but just
oh,
I
thank
mean, hit
you.
my time limit. So, lastly, your message to the planet.
Wow. I think most importantly, be kind to one another. You know, like be kind, um, be empathetic. Um, if times are tough, you know, like for you right now, just take it one day at a time. You know, like because eventually, you know, like things will get better. Okay, if it's too overwhelming, just don't be afraid to share. You know, like there are so many kind people out there. You know, like and yeah, share. your concerns, like, and there's always going to be someone who's willing to listen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I cannot finish this session without asking last question about your experience with Inner Mountain, the Dan Wang's family, and the Debbie and Annie and Evangelina King. And I'm sorry if I'm missing someone's name. And these are the management participants like Debbie as a president and her team, Evangelina King and Annie. Another, how's the experience? I mean, what's the learning so far? There
Wow.
in the inner mountain community.
Yeah, I'm so glad I found this community because when I first joined, like a couple of months ago, like I said, like I was just starting out, like my consultancy business. Like I was feeling lonely. I did not know who to talk to. Like I didn't. I felt like I was suffering alone. Like yeah. But then after joining the community, everyone has been so encouraging and so motivating, like, and basically someone like, and it's an opportunity, like to meet, to make global friends, like that's how, like you and I met, right? Yeah. So I'm very, very thankful for the Inner Mountain community for starting out something like this and for giving an avenue, like for people, like myself, to feel belonged, like and to it helped me, definitely helped me with my loneliness, like a journey. Yeah, so I'm very thankful for like the Inner Mountain community, and yeah, I look forward to our meetings every Wednesday.
Yeah, this is tomorrow. Maybe I mean,
Yeah,
this is, to me is like what 2 a.m. It's at 12 a.m. Till 1 a.m. It's like I'm almost dead. I
it's
come back
dedication.
home. I get a little bit of rest. I will sleep, siesta,
Yeah,
and then I prepare myself for the at times I'm sleeping and even try.
yeah.
But I mean I can't miss. This is so amazing. This is transformational. That's abundance. In fact, I mean she is teaching
Mm,
abundance, and I love Dine Wang's mindset, and Debbie, the president of Inner Mountain Community. I really think, Debbie, if you're looking and watching this, I really thank you so much for giving me a chance to interview Fun, and it was really, really amazing. I enjoyed each bit of it, and I learned. I mean, and I'll podcast you again. You know, this consumption behavior, authenticity, values, eco-conscious budget, investment, shopping, touch points, COVID online shopping experience, brand and engagement, living the brand. Oh my goodness! I mean, everything. I'm new to a lot of things. Generational consumers like 2040, and then Gen Z, and the moving targets, and chasing them, and hows and what's so amazing. And the disruption. Wow, you are all there. This is my interest. Disruption is the only solution that you can get through experience when making fail and fail fast, fail and fail forward. That's make mistakes so that you can get your MTP, get your ikigai, and then you disrupt with technology, and then you can think big, follow your dreams, and
yeah.
go big and bold, and embrace the future. You
Yes.
are amazing, Fun. It
Thank
was
you.
experience. Thank you so much for being yourself. Thank you so much for being a courageous lady. Thank you so much for believing in yourself. And thank you so much for forming your own MF communication. My organization and me and all people who are of our mindset are there for you. My mindset, my heart set, my soul set, my health set, everything that I have learned so far is for you, for your community, for Inner Mountain community, and all those who believe in the impact as you do. Thank you so much. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank
It
you so
was
much, Zafar. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.